Hello, babies. You okay, Nugget? Hi, little babies. Oh, hi, goobies. Excuse me. Excuse me. There's my goosies. Sorry, I'm carrying boxes. Hi, babies. Hi, bird. I know. I need to fix up the neighbor's birdhouse. I built that for her about a year ago, and I need to fix it. Hi, pretty bird. Hi, Squirt. Hi, pretty girls. Lovely. Yeah, hi, cutie pie. Hi, pretty bird. Huh, pretty bird. I know I love you. I know I love you too. I love you too. Yes, I do. I love you. I love you. Yes, Echo, I love you too. You too, Delta. There's Layla over there. See, who said that the golden goose wasn't a thing? I got one. Oh, wait, I already got all the stuff from over here. Now I gotta get the stuff from over here. See? More stuff. Sorry. Yes, my pretty babies. Yes, my pretty babies. So I figured I'd go live for a couple of minutes because I wanted to put it out there as like a short live that owning Canada geese is a thing. And it is a legal thing if it's done correctly. It is 100% illegal to go out to a lake or a pond and take goslings, eggs, or geese, regardless of their condition, regardless of whether or not the gosling is orphaned, the eggs have been abandoned, or the animals are injured. It is 100% illegal to take these animals from the wild. If they are coming from the wild, the only time you're ever allowed to have them is if you're temporarily transporting them from one location to another because you found something that needs help from a human and you're now transporting them to a rehabilitator who's going to have the proper licensing and the proper education and experience to legally be allowed to rehabilitate this animal and or treat the animal, which will then generally result in the animal being released, preferably the best case scenario. In some cases, they will end up at what's called a sanctuary. At sanctuaries, usually they're more like zoos in that sense, is that they're locations where these animals then remain for the rest of their lives because they're not capable of being released back into the wild. Again, those are places that are especially licensed to take on wild animals. In those cases, if you want to obtain an animal like this in captivity to have as a pet or as part of your backyard flock, there are actually many different species and breeds of animals that somebody might be interested in. The very first thing you need to do is you actually have to check with your state, well, your country first. But let's just assume you live in the US. So if you live in the US, the very first thing you need to do is check your federal and state laws. So the federal law pertaining to Canada geese is that you can legally own a Canada goose if you purchase them from a legal breeder. That means that person has to have the paperwork, and they can prove this to you, has to have the paperwork that proves that they own them legally, meaning that they've obtained them legally, and that they are legally breeding and selling them. In that case, if you purchase one from one of them, you're completing the federal part of the law. Now, for that federal part of the law to be fully completed, you have to be provided with a waterfowl transfer paperwork, which is a special form that you get from the breeder, and that's going to be quote unquote your federal permit. Like, it's basically going to be like your proof of legally obtaining the animal. Now, the next step from there, keep in mind, this is before getting the animal. So I'm telling you guys like how you legally get them, but you have to complete all of this prior to getting the animal. You need to make sure that you find a legal breeder. You need to be aware of the federal law. And then your next step is going to be, depending on what state you live in, it is possible that your state may require you to take an additional step to legally own the animal. So even though you may have completed the federal part of the law, there could be something extra you might have to do for the state. Now, I'm not aware of other states' rules, but these things are possible. You may have to have some additional step. Now, there's a difference between owning these animals legally and selling these animals legally. So the transfer paperwork and the breeding, it's like a special game waterfowl transfer breeder's permit thingy. I forget the actual name of the paperwork. Boys, don't fight. This is normal. It's breeding season, so they're gonna fight. As long as it doesn't get too crazy, I don't interfere. Anyways, because if I interfere, it will continue to get more crazy, and it'll get worse. But basically, if you want to breed and sell an animal like a Canada goose, the next step is that you need to be licensed by your state. So you need to contact your state. You need to get a special permit for breeding and selling specific breeds of animals or specific species of animals. In this case, it's a waterfowl. And once you have that paperwork has to be regularly renewed. You have to report how many animals you breed and or sell, or how many you own, and things like that. And you're also usually subject to surprise visits and inspections by your state warden. Now, if you don't know what a state warden is kind of like the animal police in a way. It's the person who enforces animal rights. So how police officers, say if they're called in because there's a hunter out behind your house, right? And this hunter is like illegally hunting at a time of the year where, say, for an example, deer are not supposed to be hunted. Say you have a deer feeder on your property, you see the person is out there set up and is shooting at deer, and maybe even killed one or two. In that kind of case scenario, even if you call the police will call a warden, because now the warden is not going to arrest to take to jail, but the police will do that. So it's kind of like the warden is like an additional person that works with the police when it comes to the laws pertaining hunting, animal protection, the Migratory Bird Act protection, things like that when it comes to our wildlife. Kind of like we have animal control, and they're not really officers in that sense, but they are in a way. Like they enforce, and they will investigate like situations of like if somebody has been accused of like animal abuse, but it's still going to end up being the police in the end. If that person is being charged for something and being arrested, it's still going to be ending up the regular, you know, town or state or whatever police that's going to come and arrest you. It's kind of like that. So the warden is kind of like a little bit more than that, but similar in a way. Um, and they're the ones that will come to your home regularly, usually about once a year, but they can show up at any point. They can show up and they can inspect your property, how you keep the animals, where you keep the animals, whether or not they have access to food and shelter and water, if they're living in the right conditions, whether or not they're properly marked, banded, pinioned. Um, Pinioning is basically a form of, well, some people use it as a broad term for permanently marking an animal. Other people use it um, for specifically just a wind pinioning, is what you see with my Canada geese. If you noticed, my Canada geese, when they open their wings, one of their wings appears to be partially missing. It's a form of pinioning. It's the breeder, after the baby was born, basically clipped off the very, very tip of their wing, the cartilage. What this does, because their wings are not developed yet, and it's very similar to like a circumcision on a brand new baby versus an adult person. On an adult, the healing time period and everything else is an extensive, it's a pretty big deal to do that. Whereas on a baby, the children usually are healed within a few days. So it's kind of like that is how it's kind of viewed, where like if you do it when they're tiny, it's a small procedure with a quick healing time. If you do it when, do you want attention? Are you trying to get attention? He does that when he wants attention. What do you want? What do you want, buddy? What do you want? What do you want? I don't have any snacks yet. It's not bedtime yet. It's not bedtime yet, you. It's not bedtime yet. It's not bedtime yet. Anyway, something that heals pretty quickly when they're goslings. But if you were to do the exact same procedure when they're adults, it would be a huge deal. So that's why when my Canada geese open their wings, you'll see that part of their wings are missing. But this was a quote unquote, and I'm just quoting here, minor procedure that's done while they're goslings. Personally, not a fan of it, but it is what it is. This is also why you kind of see like it looks kind of crooked on blue, for an example. You can see much more white. Like this side of the wing is much more covering than this side of the wing. That's because on this side of the wing, there is a big chunk of the wing missing. And on this side of the wing, she has a full wing. The reason they do this is not only to mark the bird, but also to prevent the bird from flying away and adding on to a wild Canada goose flock. And there are multiple reasons why they don't want these animals to add on to wild flocks. One big such reason is, for an example, you see a bird? One big reason that I've been told and that I've read about is because animals that live in captivity are generally exposed to different kinds of bacteria, pathogens, and viruses and such than animals who live in the wild. So an animal may be exposed to something and or immune of something, or be a carrier of something that is not making him actively sick, but could potentially seriously hurt, say, like the wild population. Whereas, like on the other end, the animal who has been the animal that has been raised. Oh, thanks for finding another one of those. Thank you. Thank you, darling. The animal that was raised in captivity, the animal that was raised in captivity, like these birds right here, these three that you see on the screen right now, if these birds were to be let free into the wild, their chances of survival would be significantly lower than a bird that was raised in the wild. The reason why is because, for an example, geese, which is, I'm using as an example because that's what we're talking about right now. Um, Geese actually stay with their parents for approximately a year, sometimes up to 2 years, but they generally stay with their parents for approximately a year. And during that year, geese will learn the things that they need to know to be able to survive in the wild. They will learn things about foraging, they'll learn things about where to go, they'll learn things about when to migrate, where to migrate, why to migrate, under what circumstances, when to fly, how not to fly, how to fly, why not to fly. There are lots of different things that they learn from their parents. How to fight and or avoid or hide from or watch out for predators. Um, like I said, what to eat, where to eat, how to find food, how to forage. They will learn from their parents how to like just there's a lot that they learn from their parents, a lot about communication, about um just as the same with in a way it's very similar to a human child, how a human child will learn a lot of the things that they need for later in life from their parents. And just in the same way, a goose will learn a lot of those things from their parents. Now, in this case, you can actually, if you watch this channel, see a big difference in Pretty Bird's behavior, this gander right here, versus their behavior, which is my two Canada geese. Pretty Bird is a hybrid Canada goose, so he's a mix between a Canada goose and a domestic goose. So basically, a wild goose, a Canada goose, and a domestic goose, which is just another word for a farm goose, which is one of those guys that you see swimming in that little pool right now. They are farm geese. And with him, he was hand raised as a single gosling. I know, I know, I know, Goofy. I know, Goofy. You want attention? What do you want? I think he wants me to bring him treats. He's mad at me. He wants treats. He's not biting me. He's trying to get my attention. See, I was focusing on hitting my clothes, not my hand. He does it on purpose. Now, Pretty Bird is hyper focused on me because I was the one that raised him, and he didn't learn certain things because I didn't correct him the way that a mother goose would have. So he has boundary issues and he has some self-identity issues because he never got that who am I based on who I'm being raised by imprint that they get when they're babies. Now, the reason why these two are not like that, the two other Canadas and the other geese that I have, is because not only were they not raised by me 101, but they were raised in groups. So, since they had other goslings that they were raised with, they had the ability to learn from being around other geese. And then to top it off, I brought him around Pretty Bird on a regular basis. Actually, Squirt over here, I don't know if I'm 100% right, but I'm pretty sure Squirt was actually raised by her parents for like 6 months of her life. Pretty sure she was actually raised with her family. What are you doing, Squirt? Squirt, what are you doing? What are you doing, Goofy? What are you doing? You're a weirdo. You're a good boy, Simba. But this is the reason why my animals are so tame, why I can stand right here and not be beaten up by those giant wings or chewed half to death by my babies. It's because I raised most of my geese. Hand raised geese are actually generally much nicer, much tamer, um, and look at them filing into one perfect line. There goes a line of duckies. You know, geese, but same difference. And Blue's got to chase her off again. Of course you did. Blue, quit being mean. You know she's bigger than you, right? But Blue's a Canada goose. They're much more ferocious. Hey, guys, you need to go inside. Let's go. Come on. Let's go inside. Come on. Come on. Inside. Come on. Let's stay inside. Y'all need to go inside. Ooh, what'd you find? What'd you find? What is that? It's just, it's literally trash. Literally trash. Yeah, I got it. Don't be eating that crap. Dorcas. What's up, Simba? Anyway, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek into legally owning one of the breeds that you need to, one of the species slash breeds that you need to have paperwork for, where there is a little bit more to it than just buying them somewhere or taking them from somewhere. There's our goose flock. There's my goosey flock. Aren't they just so pretty? I love them. Look at Pretty Bird go. He used to never forage. He's finally learned that he's supposed to forage being around the other geese. What they're doing right now, they're actually not foraging for grass, they're actually foraging for roots. During this time of the year, they walk around and they eat roots. And they're also looking for little sprouts, like little areas where a little bit of green grass has grown through. So they look for little spots like that. Anyway, I'm going to go on inside the coop. I'm going to start working on that little birdhouse, my neighbor's birdhouse. It's going to work on it for like the next hour or so. Then I'll lock up. So I got to get this thing all nice and fixed up for her. So I need to make a better design because this is not enough opening at the top. It's not enough. So I need to make this better. I have better hinges now too. Back then I didn't really have much choices when it came to hinges. And honestly, I didn't really know what I was doing. So now that I've learned much more about wood and how to, screw in holes without it cracking and stuff like that, I can do much better. So first things first, I got to take it apart. That's what I'm going to do tonight. So I will see you guys later on. Maybe I'll go back online when I go to lock up the geese in like, I don't know, probably like 45 minutes to an hour. Anyway, these guys are going to forage for a while longer until it gets all the way dark out. Because that's what geese do. Right. Bye, guys. Thanks for stopping in.